Hi, my name is Bella. My husband and I have been married for 2 years. I had a terrible time finding love until I was 27 years old. I went to an elite middle and high school for girls only, and then I went to a university for women only. After I graduated, I got a job as a receptionist at a big company. As you might expect, all of my coworkers were women. For most of the people in my social circle, business leaders would ask them to parties, but not me. I never went to those kinds of events. It was easy to understand why talking to guys made me so nervous that I couldn't even speak. People often told me how nice I looked, and I was asked out a few times. There were some nice guys at dinner, but they always told me, "You're pretty, but there's not much else to you." After that, it happened. The door to my fate opened. Can I ask Bella to go on a date with me? This is what Lex, who worked for one of our clients and always checked in at my desk, told me. Since he would only give me his contact information, people around us thought we were dating, but it wasn't true. I just smiled at him when he tried to start a conversation, like I did with everyone else. I really thought I would always be single, but when he told me, everything changed. May I suggest that we begin our relationship as friends? That was my answer. Got off guard. He nodded so excitedly that it looked like his head would fall off. He smiled as he walked into the office. I had never done that before. Guy questions like, "Want to have dinner?" had always been the norm up until now. "Free tonight." But when I was with Lex, I didn't get that sense. I only felt love. I was so happy. I went on a few dates with him, but I was still nervous and didn't talk much. The moment I knew he liked me for who I was, I knew. Is it possible for you and I to be together? To the point of tears, he was so happy. All of this took place on Christmas 2 years ago. At that moment, I was very happy and thought I would always have someone so loving in my life. But there was a hole in his armor when his business failed. Now it's been 2 years, and I'm 29. "Lex, you should probably wake up now," I told my husband, who was still asleep. Then I put on my shoes and left the house. I'm the only one making money for our family right now. My husband's business went out of business 6 months ago, and he hasn't had a job since. It's been hard for him to find a job. This business is in a bad field, and the economy is also bad. Sometimes he gets an offer for a job that pays only $2,000 a month, which makes it hard for him to commit to a new job. Even with all of this, I still support him. Our love isn't so shallow that it would fade if one of us lost our job. My pay has always been pretty low. We've never lived a fancy life. We rent a 2-bedroom flat that is more than 30 years old. It's a 30-minute walk from the train stop, and the building isn't safe. But I was ready to give up a lot of things so that we could keep living together. I thought my husband might still be upset about his company going out of business. He had a few job offers, and I waited calmly because I thought he'd find a good fit and feel better. But my hope was short-lived, and he kept getting worse. Even taking out his anger on me by raising his hand sometimes was a sign of his stress. He didn't leave any permanent marks, and I thought he must be hurting more than I was. So I put up with it because I wanted to help. Then, after a few days, he finally got a new job. He quit the business he was in before and went into a whole new one. He took the job because the new place was ready to hire him, even though he didn't have much experience. I felt better when he got it because I knew I wouldn't have to be his hitting bag anymore. I thought he might be getting violent, but it looked like it was just a phase. He is now working hard at his new job and was even given the title of team leader. It's been a year, and I just turned 30. I was excited about having kids soon, but the loving man I married didn't seem to be there anymore. I told you I liked toast. Now tell me why you made pancakes. Also, take out the pit if you're going to serve fruit. Little things started to make my husband mad, and he started saying mean things. Really, do you need to talk that way? Lex, you're an adult now. I snapped back. Take out the pit yourself. I was getting angry. In response, he hit the wall with his hand, which scared me. I don't like to argue, but I know in my heart that what he's doing is mental abuse. Recently, I've tried not to upset him, but we've been fighting a lot, and I'm tired of it. When he took it out on me, that's when I lost it. It looked like the stress of his new job was to blame. Soon after, he was made team leader, which showed how good he was. Now everyone tells him he's going to be a department head very soon. He couldn't handle the extra stress, so he started hitting me, who was an easy target. In fact, I quit my job at 30 to stay at home and raise my kids. When I got into my 30s, I'd always planned to quit my job as a receptionist and do something I really enjoyed. Since my husband knew this, I stopped at age 30 as planned. He doesn't seem to like it though. Women need to work too these days. You should know that my pay is enough to take care of both of us. Do you even value the people who have taken care of you? He moans while he eats, then gets his bag and goes to work. I was there for him when he didn't have a job. So why am I being blamed now? That's when I started to mentally distance myself from him. When I got home one day, there were shoes I didn't recognize at the door. There was my mother-in-law in the living room, which caught me off guard. "Well, Mom, why are you here?" My mom told me straight out, "Didn't Lex tell you?" When I went up to her, "From today on, I'm moving in." This is something I've never heard before. Over time, I learned that my husband had suggested that my mother-in-law move, and because she was lonely after the death of my father-in-law. Of course, no one asked me that. While I was still shocked, my mother-in-law told me to start making dinner. It shows how valuable a housewife is to take care of her family, so she told her, "Get to work." Even though I was angry and confused, I went to the kitchen to make dinner. Then Lex's mother-in-law came in and said, "Lex hates burgers." The food was almost ready. This is rubbish. The dish was almost done when she threw it away. I was seated inside, but strangely, words failed me when I was faced with this surprise event. I couldn't say anything, so I just listened as my mother-in-law went on. She then started going through the fridge and cooking without asking. I finally calmed down and told my mom, "Hold on." I made a list of meals for the week and then went shopping. As soon as I said that, he dumped flour on my head, making me cough. I kept watching her make her food, and then she told me to clean up. When my husband finally got home, he was thrilled to see the meal. Yes, this is the kind of food I want. It's better to eat fried food than salad. He walked past me and happily sat down to eat with his mom. My heart felt like it had been smashed and black ink had been dropped on it at that moment. Following that, my mother-in-law continued to bother me every day, and my husband continued to hurt my feelings. I felt like I didn't belong in this house, and even though my husband wanted to be close to me, I couldn't because of the situation. As a 30-something woman, I have been putting off having a child because I don't want to have a kid with this abusive man. The last straw finally broke. My wife's mom asked me to take her to the hospital because she was sick. Even though I didn't want to be with her, I had to take her to the hospital, even though I didn't want to. But when I went to get her, a social worker told me to go to a different room. She told her, "You must be having a hard time taking care of the kids and doing all the housework by yourself. But taking it out on your husband and mother-in-law isn't good." It turns out that my mother-in-law was saying that I hurt her when I fell. Even worse, she had been to the hospital more than once and asked about me each time. It looks like she picked today to deal the last hit. The social worker blamed me because she didn't know the whole story. You should look out for kids and old people more. During that time, our family hasn't had any children. When I was told I might need psychological help, I had had enough. You broke my rights, so I'll sue you. It's not you who is being mistreated here, it's me. I showed proof that my husband abused me and that my mother-in-law burned me on purpose. The social worker said she had to check with my mother-in-law, but I told her no and left the hospital by myself. Soon after, my husband and mother-in-law came home. My husband heard from my mother-in-law that I was mean to her. My husband shook his head and said, "You're leaving me, you parasite. How dare you leave my mother?" What kind of lie did my mother-in-law tell you? Based on her fake tears, I think she did it again. I was sick of telling her she was wrong, so I left the house without noticing either of them. I didn't go home that day. Instead, I stayed the night in a work hotel. I was lucky to have my wallet and cell phone with me, and it was easy to find a charger. I chose to avoid both of them for a while and not go back home. But as I walked by the house one day, I saw a woman in her 50s who lived across the street from our apartment. I was beginning to worry. I haven't seen you around. She also told me that your mom told her that you and your husband are going on vacation for about a week. When I heard that, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then I asked myself, if not now, when? I called the moving company right away and asked them to help me move out as soon as possible. It was a little more expensive, but I didn't have much stuff, and the movers were able to get it all to my parents' house in just 3 days. Let's see how my husband and his mother react, since they have no idea how much I've helped with the house. They put me down when they don't know anything about me, and I won't forgive them. After moving, I went back to my parents' house because their house was empty. After a few days, my husband called me. "Where are you, Bella? There is no one in your room." When my husband found out what was going on, he kept asking me where I was. I told him, "Not your business. By the way, I've already filed for divorce because you've said you wanted to do it before. Sign them and send them in." After I hung up the phone with him, I stopped calling his number. After that, my life became peaceful. I did yoga, made breakfast, and then sat down with my parents at the table. I had lunch with my mom and dinner with my family again. That's how I felt, but it was comfort and happiness I hadn't felt in a long time. When I told my parents to thank you, they were surprised, but they were happy to see me. When my husband found out I was at my parents' house, he waited nearby for me. When I saw him, I tried to run away, but he caught up and grabbed my arm. "Call me Bella. Let's go home. Without you, the house is a mess." I yelled, "Help me," as his hold got tighter. As I was being helped, a high school boy in his sports uniform came by and called the cops. A businessman nearby also helped. Since the cops were there, my husband quietly left. But as expected, my angry mother-in-law stormed into my parents' house. "How dare you make fun of my son in public? Oh, you and your family are a shame." Finally, I stopped my dad from going up to them and told him, while I was doing that, my mother-in-law was outside our house making threats and even talking about defamation lawsuits. Dad was about to lose it and talk to her about it, but I stopped him. "Okay, I'm ready to settle this." I called my husband, who was standing next to my mother-in-law when the call came in. He told her straight out, "I know you're cheating, and I have proof. I'm going to sue you for abuse and get money when we get divorced." My husband became scared when he heard this. After hearing rumors that he was going to a hotel with a coworker, I actually paid a detective to find proof of his cheating. I had a lot of proof. I even went to the hospital and got a note saying I was healthy in case they tried something. I had also recorded talks in case I needed proof. I was going to talk to my husband and his mother about it when I was ready mentally, but I'm not going to be quiet when they insult my parents. My mother-in-law has also been stealing money from my pocket. I've heard that the house is in terrible shape and even smells bad since I left. People in the neighborhood are complaining, right? My husband didn't know what to say. A friend told me this story. They said my husband and his mother were not in town. It looks like they haven't been doing simple things like picking through the trash, and the house has become a dump. Besides that, I heard that the property management gets reports every day about the loud fights they have. Now my husband might understand how much I help the family and want me to return, but it's too late. I'm not coming back to live happily ever after with your mom. After I said that, I put the phone down. Soon after, my wife's mom tried to break down my front door. They were both arrested after I called the cops. After the fact, my neighbor told me that they hadn't taken care of any of the complaints through the management business. The drama finally got so bad that it cleared out the whole apartment building. The management finally went to court against both of them for not paying rent, ignoring complaints, and making business difficult. They were being sued for money damages. They were finally told by the court to leave and pay money for harm. They can't rent anywhere now because they're on a list of people who can't rent. It turned out that the rent wasn't paid because my husband made a mistake at work that cost a lot of money and caused him to lose his job. He quit his job and moved far away because he couldn't find another place to live in the area. He then ran into another problem when he tried to find new work. He became homeless, which made his mother steal from stores. She was arrested for hitting a store worker who tried to talk to her. I read about this in the news online. I have no idea what comes next, and I don't want to know. When I got divorced, I started working at the coffee shop of my dreams. Someone I work with who is 5 years younger than me and I became friends. I got married again when I was 34. We opened our dream cafe when we were 40, and now I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant at a late age, but I've never been happy.
Hey, where did that go? Where did it disappear to? What are you looking for? Well, as I tried to make sense of the situation, my husband faced a demotion at work due to a rising number of mistakes. He had never been particularly driven, so the demotion didn't seem to surprise him much. However, his forgetfulness was becoming increasingly alarming, prompting us to visit the hospital for further evaluation. I had initially suspected depression, but the diagnosis was far more unsettling. Juvenile Alzheimer's, a form of dementia that can affect even the young. Despite hearing that this was a possibility, I was deeply shocked to learn that my husband had it. I'm Katie Smith. 5 years have passed since that diagnosis, and now I'm 50 years old while my husband is 54. We never had children, and I continue to work. My parents have since passed away, but my husband's parents are still alive and well, living in a countryside home not far from us. They are very caring and even offered to take him in, suggesting that I should consider a divorce. However, my husband, who had always disliked country life, firmly rejected the idea. I didn't rush into a decision about divorce simply because of his illness. After nearly 20 years together, our commitment went beyond the vows of in sickness and in health. I believed it would be wrong to abandon him now, just because of his condition. Although his memory problems persisted, he could still manage a normal life. The medication seemed to be somewhat effective, and he still recognized me and maintained a semblance of his usual self. Even though he sometimes didn't respond or remember things incorrectly, his overall behavior was not drastically different from before. When asked about specific matters, he often claimed ignorance or forgetfulness. His work mistakes increased, and he would sometimes become distressed over paperwork. He eventually expressed a desire to quit his job, asking, "If I leave, will you support me?" Unable to refuse his plea, he resigned, and I found myself supporting him through this new chapter. He rarely goes out and spends most of his time at home, and while he does leave things scattered around or sometimes leave food out, it's not disruptive to anyone else. His behavior, while imperfect, doesn't seem to cause significant problems. Since quitting his job, my husband has been at home full-time. I consulted with the doctor about having a caregiver for him while I'm at work, but the doctor reassured me that my husband could still detect danger and advised that we would discuss more as his condition progressed. For now, the doctor suggested that I instruct my husband to lock the door when he leaves and not to go out alone. Although I was a bit concerned, my husband insisted it's fine to be alone and would get irritable if I pressed the issue too much. "Shut up. I'm sick. Stop bringing up unnecessary things. You're just confusing me more. Be considerate," he would snap. I had to back off because I couldn't handle his outbursts. 5 years before his diagnosis, I had been promoted to section manager, which led to a salary increase. This meant that, despite my husband's resignation, we didn't face immediate financial strain. Without children, we had accumulated significant savings, so I was relieved to have a stable income. I hoped our lives could remain as normal as possible. However, recently I've been troubled by a new issue. Many of my belongings, designer bags, recently purchased shoes and clothes, and other expensive items, have gone missing. These were items I had saved up for and cherished. I searched everywhere, wondering if I had misplaced them, but they were nowhere to be found. When I asked my husband about the missing items, he could only reply, "I don't know." "Do you remember taking them somewhere?" I asked. "No, I don't remember," he repeated. I worried that his illness might be progressing to the point where he couldn't even recall moving things out of the house. When I came home and inquired about his day, he would often say, "I can't remember." The doctor had mentioned that the progression of the disease could vary, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it might be advancing more quickly. I was deeply concerned about leaving my husband alone, fearing that he might start wandering or causing problems that I wouldn't be able to manage on my own. To keep an eye on him, I decided to set up surveillance cameras in the house without informing him. What if he began to wander around and disturb others? I needed to be prepared for any situation that might arise. A week later, after my husband had gone to sleep, I anxiously reviewed the camera footage. What I saw was far beyond anything I had anticipated and left me astonished. I had no idea this was happening. The footage revealed my husband bringing a woman into our home, despite not having had a meaningful conversation with him for the past 5 years. His response is always vague. He appeared to converse with this woman normally, without any sign of dementia. Even more shocking was the identity of the woman. She was the female doctor who had diagnosed him with dementia. The hospital she worked at was the same one handling medical checkups for my husband's company. Was this some kind of cruel joke between them, or was his dementia diagnosis a complete fabrication? In the video, I heard their conversation. "Are you sure she hasn't found out about this?" "Not at all. Dementia is a convenient excuse. I don't have to work and can claim I don't remember things. It's perfect for avoiding any inconvenient truths." What a terrible man. You make your wife work while you lounge at home with your mistress. He started it, didn't he? When I said I was tired of working and wanted to quit, you suggested this plan. I didn't think it would work out so well. The woman laughed and crossed her legs as she spoke with my husband. She's so arrogant. I don't know if she's been promoted or whatever, but she's earning more than me. She probably looked down on me, but thanks to her, we can enjoy ourselves like this. Well, she's my ATM, so she needs to keep working hard. You said she was your housekeeper the other day. She's my housekeeper and ATM. The words from the screen echoed in my mind, making it feel as though my thoughts had gone completely blank. They repeated over and over, each repetition a hammering blow to my understanding. "Oh, and Hannah, don't take things out of the house too often. My wife has noticed some things are missing. Why don't you just take them out and pretend they're gone? It's a disease, so you can just say you forgot." Well, that's true. No other disease is as convenient as this one. No, I won't have to work for the rest of my life. So this is what's been happening. What had I been doing, trying to support him without questioning anything? For 5 years, I have labored tirelessly, managing both work and household duties, completely unaware of the deception. I felt utterly foolish and drained, as though every ounce of my strength had been sapped away. A wave of inexplicable laughter overcame me. It felt like a desperate release of the anger, sadness, frustration, and despair that were consuming me. It seemed I might have lost my grip on reality. And the despair didn't stop there. I checked my bank account and was devastated to find that my balance was zero. Every penny I had saved since our marriage was gone. I felt utterly lost, as if the world had come crashing down. Dawn broke, and I remained numb. My husband woke up with his usual indifferent demeanor, and seeing him only intensified the anger that bubbled beneath my calm exterior. "Where's breakfast?" I wanted to confront him, to grab him by the collar and unleash all my fury, but I restrained myself. He was still oblivious to the fact that I knew the truth. I struggled to contain my urge to reveal everything and force him to apologize on the spot. Yet I was at a loss for what to do next. I knew that if I confronted him, he would likely just smile and say, "So, you found out, huh? What are you planning to do today?" I asked, trying to maintain composure. "What's this about? You never asked me that before." "I'm just curious about what you do at home all day." "I'd love to work like you do, but since I'm sick, all I can do is cause trouble and scare people around me. I envy you for being able to go to work." I was stunned by his audacity. The betrayal was clear, and I could use it as grounds for alimony and divorce. But thinking about the past 5 years of deception made me feel so frustrated that I couldn't hold back the tears. People who act with such impunity often try to deflect with excuses or meaningless justifications. Over the next few days, I wrestled with what to do. Just seeing his face made me feel sick, but I kept my feelings in check. The cameras remained in place, and my husband, unaware of my discovery, continued to bring the doctor into our home when I was away. One day, I asked him, "Did anyone come over today? I thought I smelled someone else." "Well, someone might have come by, but I don't remember. Maybe it was a salesman." "So, how are you feeling? You seem to be doing better lately. Is your treatment going well?" "I don't think so. I've been getting more forgetful lately. The doctor said that while you can slow the progression of the disease, you can't cure it." "That's right. That doctor was quite attractive, wasn't she?" "Was she? I don't remember her face." I was struck by his continued pretense. Unable to remain passive, I decided to take action. I visited my parents-in-law with a recorded video in hand without telling my husband. Despite their kindness and consideration toward me, they were still his parents. I had feared that they might side with him, blaming me for his infidelity or suggesting I wasn't a good enough wife. Despite my reservations, I had no one else to confide in. If they both blamed me, I would simply resign myself to a divorce. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm sorry for coming unannounced, but I need to discuss something important with you. What's wrong? You look so distressed. What happened? Come in, dear. You must be hungry. I'll make you something warm. My mother-in-law's offer nearly brought me to tears. I hadn't needed to worry. After watching the video of my husband's affair with the female doctor, my parents-in-law were deeply remorseful. They knelt before me, apologizing profusely. Stupid son, I'm so sorry. Katie, I'm so sorry. Instead of blaming me, they cried and held my hands, which only made me cry harder. All the tension I had carried for so long seemed to dissolve in that moment. Although my anger towards my husband remained, I was profoundly grateful to have their support. There was another piece of good news. I received a promotion offer to become a department head. It was a significant boost to my morale, affirming that my hard work was recognized and valued. Hey, Katie, are you listening? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, I was lost in thought. I had been contemplating how to address my husband's betrayal and got a bit carried away. It's not funny if you and your husband are both demented, he added. His words triggered a new train of thought in my mind. I wondered if he would care for me if I ever became demented. Forget it, I'm too busy dealing with myself to take care of you. His response was met with a look of surprise. From then on, I made a point of echoing his own words back to him every day, hoping to make him feel the reality of the situation. Hey, what was I doing earlier? I've been making so many mistakes at work lately. I keep forgetting things like how to use the washing machine or cook rice. His nervousness grew with each passing day, but it seemed to be working. One day, when I came home from work, I discovered that my husband had disappeared. He had left behind a completed divorce petition along with a note. I don't want to cause you any more trouble, so I've decided to divorce you. Please don't look for me. Ken. It was clear he fled because he feared I might have dementia. From the hidden camera footage, I knew exactly where he had gone. He had rented an apartment to continue his relationship with the female doctor. The footage revealed everything, including the details of his new residence. I'm getting a divorce. Would it be funny if I had to take care of her? I've already moved my savings, so I won't have to worry about living expenses for a while, he had said with a laugh, mentioning his new apartment. I knew where the doctor lived from their conversations, so I went to the neighborhood. She was married and lived in the suburbs with her family. I immediately filed the divorce papers and sent a bill for alimony and property division to her husband's newly rented apartment. I also sent a certified letter to the female doctor herself, demanding alimony. My husband called me as soon as he received the notice. What's this about alimony? He demanded. Alimony for cheating on me, of course. What? I also sent the bill to the doctor. Her husband must have found out by now and is probably having a hard time. Along with the alimony bills, I sent the video footage from the hidden camera to my husband. I felt her husband had a right to know the full extent of the betrayal. Oh, you? How did you find out? I was shocked too. I couldn't believe it was all a lie. I thought you were going insane. Well, I was just playing along. You're so easy to fool, aren't you? My husband, in a furious outburst, refused to face the reality of his actions and began shouting at me. How dare you accuse me of cheating? You've been pretending to have dementia for 5 years while living off my money. And you even brought another woman into our home. Do you think you have any right to be angry? He clearly hadn't anticipated that I was aware of everything. As he began to slur his words, he protested. But what do you mean by property division? I don't have any property. We have your savings, I replied. Oh, I've spent it all. There isn't a penny left, he claimed. At this point, I had no patience left for his excuses. I revealed that I had installed a camera in our house and had recorded everything he said to the woman doctor. I had concrete evidence of his betrayal. I have solid proof, I told him. When I mentioned that his parents knew about everything and were enraged, he flew into another rage, shouting, How dare you tell them? It seemed he still couldn't grasp that he had no right to be angry. Fortunately, his endless ramblings spared me the expense of hiring an investigative firm. After my revelations, he fell silent for a moment, seemingly at a loss for words, and then abruptly ended the call. A month later, I received another call from him. "What's going on?" he asked. "What do you mean?" I went to the apartment, and they said it was already canceled. "What apartment?" "The one we were living in." I reminded him that he was the one who left the divorce papers, so I had not anticipated him returning. When I told him that I had canceled the lease right after he left, he became furious, demanding to know why I hadn't informed him beforehand. After my husband lost his job, I updated the lease to reflect my name since he was no longer employed. It was my decision to manage the lease and decide on our next move. "I bought a condo. I'm living there now," I told him. "You bought it?" "Yes, with the alimony I received from you and your mistress, plus the savings I reclaimed. It's a modest place, but it's my own." "Oh, really? I'll come over then." I was baffled by his audacity. "Don't you have a girlfriend?" I asked. "I broke up with her. Her husband discovered her infidelity and divorced her. She's been sued by a patient for a diagnostic error and is drowning in debt from multiple lawsuits. Her life's a mess." "Really? So, if I start over with you, the alimony gets canceled, and I can get my money back, right?" I couldn't believe he thought I'd consider his proposal. He even suggested we reconcile and that I'd get the alimony returned. "Are you out of your mind? We're divorced. I don't ever want to see you again. There's no way I'm getting back together with you." With that, I hung up and blocked all further communication from him. It seems my ex-husband then visited his parents only to find that they had sold their house and moved into an elderly apartment. They mentioned that he was shocked to find their house on the market and reached out to them. Given that a lawyer was handling the collection of property division and alimony, my ex-husband was left with nearly nothing. He struggled to find a new job, was evicted for not paying rent, and had no place to go. He likely turned to his parents for help, but they anticipated his plight and moved out to avoid being stuck with him. They informed me that he's now working as a live-in laborer at a factory where his laziness has led to frequent scolding and physical altercations with younger workers. Despite contacting his parents for support, they've repeatedly turned him away. Months after the divorce, I still keep in touch with my ex-in-laws. They've become like real parents to me, and I plan to continue supporting them. Meanwhile, I've been promoted to department manager, my salary has increased, and I'm relishing my peaceful, independent life.
I'm 28 years old, and I have an older sister, Olivia, who's 31. Honestly, she hasn't really got her life together, but for some reason, our parents treat her like she's the golden child. Ever since we were kids, Olivia has had this idea in her head that I'm out to steal her thunder or something. Because of that, she's pretty much dedicated her life to one-upping me and everything. Let me break it down for you. It's not just the typical brother-sister rivalry where you might argue over who gets the last piece of cake or something. This goes way deeper. If I decided to learn something new and cool, like archery, the next thing I know, Olivia is strutting around school with her own bow and arrows, telling everyone she's into archery too. And it didn't stop at hobbies. If I ever mentioned in my diary that I liked a guy, bam, she'd be all over him the very next day, flirting like there was no tomorrow. And it wasn't just about boys and hobbies. Even when I decided to eat healthier and exercise more, Olivia would suddenly become all about that healthy life as well, copying my diet and workout routine to a T. It was like whatever I did, she had to do it too, but not in a fun, let's share interests kind of way. More like, I've got to do everything you do and be in all your friend groups. So yeah, if I made a new friend, you could bet Olivia would be right there, trying to become their best friend too. Here's the thing. Olivia had this habit of copying me to the point where it felt like she was always trying to be better than me at everything I did. This whole copycat game started to really bug me because it felt like I couldn't have anything that was just mine. I tried talking to my parents about how much this bothered me, but they didn't get it. They would just say stuff like, "Oh, sisters copy each other all the time. It's normal." And they made it seem like I was being silly for wanting to keep some of my interests just to myself. But the real problem wasn't about copying. It was about how I felt like I couldn't have my own space to enjoy the things I liked without Olivia turning it into some sort of competition. It wasn't fun for me. I didn't want to be in a constant battle over who could do something better. Just wanted to chill and do my thing. But Olivia always had to make everything into this big deal where she had to outdo me. To make things even more annoying, it seemed like my parents were always cheering for Olivia, even when I was the one who really cared about whatever we were doing. They would never miss any event or thing Olivia was part of, even if it meant taking time off work. But when it was my turn, suddenly their schedules were too packed, and my stuff didn't seem to matter as much to them. It felt like they were always making a bigger fuss over her achievements and kind of just brushing mine aside. Alright, let me tell you how Olivia enjoyed being the center of attention all the time. She used every chance she got to rub it in my face how much our parents seemed to favor her over me. She'd whisper mean things to me when we were near our parents, and if I showed any sign of getting upset, she'd act all innocent, pretending she didn't know why I was bothered. But when we were alone, she'd be even meaner, telling me I should just disappear, because nobody would even notice I was gone. Olivia would also tell me to stop being sad about always being in second place to her in everything. But her mean behavior didn't stop with just words. She actually bullied me physically at school a bunch of times. She'd do things like trip me on purpose where everyone could see or hit me, then say it was just a dare from her friends. When my teachers noticed what was happening, they called in my parents to talk about it. They were so serious they even mentioned suspending me. My parents would tell the school that this was just sibling stuff and they'd deal with it at home. But at home, Olivia would twist the story, making it seem like I was the troublemaker and her reactions were a result of my actions. Olivia had a talent for turning everything upside down, especially when it involved me. Our parents, bless their hearts, seemed to have blinders on whenever Olivia was involved. Even when she did something outrageously mean, they turned a blind eye. If ever they came close to questioning her actions, Olivia could turn on the waterworks like nobody's business. She'd sob and claim that I was fabricating tales out of sheer jealousy. Unfortunately, this defense worked every single time. My friends, who were true troopers through all of this, began calling Olivia out on her nasty behavior towards me. This seemed to be the cue for Olivia to kick things up a notch. She started concocting elaborate stories, complete with self-inflicted bruises or strategically placed bandages. Olivia then went around telling everyone that these were the results of my supposed attacks on her. Trying to defend myself against Olivia's web of lies felt like trying to climb a mountain with no gear. She was relentless, weaving her tales to anyone who would listen, anyone I'd never spoken to, laughed with, or dared to develop a crush on. Her aim was to make them see me through her twisted lens. The result? My high school experience was less about learning and growing and more about surviving Olivia's campaign of terror. Just when I thought it couldn't get worse, it did. After Olivia finished high school and took a gap year due to low grades for college admission, I was ready to start my own college journey. Through hard work and maybe a sprinkle of luck, I landed enough scholarships to cover my tuition. I was proud, relieved even. Then the bombshell dropped. In a casual conversation, my parents let slip that they had been saving up for both our college funds. Since I didn't need my share, they decided to funnel everything, including the money earmarked for me, into Olivia's bottomless pit of needs. There was the harsh truth laid bare. My efforts to be independent and financially responsible had inadvertently given my parents the green light to use resources meant for me to further indulge Olivia. It was a revelation that stung more than I cared to admit, a stark reminder of the imbalance that had colored our sibling rivalry and my parents' favoritism from the start. When my parents laid out the red carpet for Olivia, telling her she could pick any major she fancied, it felt like a slap in the face. But the real kicker came when I discovered that my parents were planning to allocate all the college savings, including the stash intended for me, to Olivia. I was furious. I tried reasoning with them, suggesting that we keep my college fund separate for potential future needs, like starting a business or even for my wedding. However, the conversation didn't go as planned. they hit me with the "it's our money, and we'll spend it how we like" speech, insisting that Olivia needed it more than I did. Despite my attempts to argue, they weren't receptive and told me it was time to learn to fend for myself. That night, I cried myself to sleep, feeling like no matter what I did, Olivia would always be the golden child, and I'd remain a mere family footnote. As college move-in day approached, I packed up my life, making sure I took everything to avoid any reason to return home. Predictably, my parents didn't lift a finger to help me move. Their absence had become more expected than shocking by then. During those low moments, feeling like I was on my own, I crossed paths with Adam at one of the college's welcome events. He was like a ray of sunshine piercing through the clouds of my gloomy world. His kindness and easygoing smile were genuinely uplifting. Meeting Adam felt like turning a new leaf, leaving behind the stifling air of my family drama for something, or rather, someone, incredibly uplifting. As time went on, Adam became an amazing friend, always there for me like a rock. He listened without making me feel bad, providing comfort when everything felt overwhelming. Around Christmas, when my parents were hosting a big party and wanted me to come home, the idea of dealing with the drama alone was unappealing. So I decided to bring Adam along, thinking it would be the perfect time for my family to meet him. I informed my folks in advance, letting them know that Adam and I would stay in our own space, but join everyone for the big dinner. When we showed up, I could tell my parents were taken aback to see Adam. Their old-school views led to snap judgments based on appearances. But I was prepared. I had filled Adam in on my family, and he charmed everyone with his usual charisma, even catching my mom off guard with a bouquet of flowers. That night, Adam became the star of the show, dropping clever jokes and being his awesome self. He won everyone over with his friendliness, making a sweet speech thanking my parents for letting him join our family gathering. It was cool to see my cousins jokingly ask if he had any brothers, and I was genuinely glad to witness everyone taking to my boyfriend so well. However, I couldn't help but notice Olivia looking extremely annoyed, brewing in her own anger. As the evening progressed, Olivia started drinking excessively and whispered things to some of our relatives. It was evident that she wasn't happy about Adam being there and seemed to be plotting something. Right in the middle of dinner, she blurted out loudly, asking me if Adam and I were serious. The sudden question made everyone stop and look at us. Without hesitation, I grabbed Adam's hand and affirmed that we were indeed serious about each other. However, Olivia, with a smug look on her face, suggested that maybe I should consider being with someone who fits our family's traditions better, implying that Adam wasn't a good match because he was different. Her comment was not only rude but also racist, making many people at the dinner feel uncomfortable due to her openly judgmental behavior. Trying to act sneaky, Olivia suggested that I should think about how different our cultures were, essentially implying that I should be with someone who aligns better with our family's way of doing things. Hearing her say that infuriated me, and I was about to let her have it. However, Adam, who didn't seem bothered by her mean words, just smiled and calmly told her that he's as American as anyone else in the room because he was born here. He shared that his great-grandparents came to America a long time ago, and that his family has always taught him to respect all different cultures and beliefs. While I was upset that Adam had to defend himself to my family, the way he handled Olivia's nasty remarks only strengthened my certainty that he was the perfect guy for me. After Adam stood up for himself, nobody was thinking too highly of Olivia. People didn't appreciate how she tried to call out my boyfriend in front of everyone. For the rest of the evening, Olivia sat by herself, looking angry and sipping on her drink. After we all went back to college, I was so fed up with her behavior that I sent her a lengthy text expressing my embarrassment to call her my sister and hoping she would stay out of my life. I didn't even want people to know we were related. She responded with a short text that simply said, "Same here." Since that big argument, I haven't spoken to Olivia at all. Adam and I successfully completed college and now both hold excellent jobs. 3 years ago, we decided to tie the knot invited my parents to the wedding but made it clear that Olivia wasn't welcome. Despite my mom's attempts to change my mind, I wanted our wedding to be truly special and extravagant. My parents were quite shocked by how amazing everything looked. My mom was blown away, and my dad, who typically doesn't say much, remained silent throughout the ceremony. Our guests, including friends and Adam's family, got to meet my parents. It didn't take long for everyone to notice the stark contrast in wealth between Adam's family and mine. After the wedding, my parents approached me, expressing surprise at the amount spent on the event and the wealth of Adam's family. My mom was curious about how we could afford such an extravagant wedding, and I assured her that Adam and I were doing well for ourselves. I wanted them to understand that our decision to get married wasn't solely based on financial considerations. Looking back, I realize it might have been a mistake to disclose so much about our financial situation to my parents. 2 years ago, my parents unexpectedly reached out for help. They explained that my dad had retired and they had depleted their savings on home renovations. I asked if I could lend them a hand with money, a surprising request considering their usual behavior. Despite it feeling like I didn't quite fit in with my family, it felt somewhat comforting to be the one they turned to. They requested $3,000 every month, which would cover their bills and increasing medical costs as they aged. At that time, I was doing well at work, and Adam and I were in a good financial position. Without much hesitation, I agreed, considering it my duty to assist my parents in their time of need. When Adam learned about the substantial monthly contribution, he was taken aback. He pointed out that $3,000 was a significant amount for them to request. Despite the financial strain, Adam and I were determined to help my parents, making the monthly transfers a routine. I never delved into the specifics of how they were using the funds. During this period, I started feeling like there was an improvement in my relationship with my parents, although I wasn't certain whether their niceness was genuine or just a reaction to the financial support they were receiving. It seemed like we were genuinely connecting. I entertained the idea of letting go of our challenging past and beginning anew, hoping for a happier future together. However, 2 weeks ago, my phone exploded with calls from them right in the middle of an incredibly busy workday. Aware of my packed schedule, the numerous missed calls raised concerns, making me rush to call them back. My dad was on the other end, requesting me to visit their place urgently for an important conversation. Despite feeling worn out after a long day at work, I'd agreed, curious about the nature of their request. That evening, I showed up at their doorstep, feeling a mix of fatigue and curiosity. They both appeared nervous, escalating my worry. When I inquired about their well-being, they began the conversation by expressing gratitude for the financial support I had been providing. Bewildered, I sat there as my mom disclosed some unexpected news. She revealed that my sister Olivia. Without hesitation, I grabbed Adam's hand and affirmed that we were indeed serious about each other. However, Olivia, with a smug look on her face, suggested that maybe I should consider being with someone who fits our family's traditions better, implying that Adam wasn't a good match because he was different. Her comment was not only rude but also racist, making many people at the dinner feel uncomfortable due to her openly judgmental behavior. Trying to act sneaky, Olivia suggested that I should think about how different our cultures were, essentially implying that I should be with someone who aligns better with our family's way of doing things. Hearing her say that infuriated me, and I was about to let her have it. However, Adam, who didn't seem bothered by her mean words, just smiled and calmly told her that he's as American as anyone else in the room because he was born here. He shared that his great-grandparents came to America a long time ago, and that his family has always taught him to respect all different cultures and beliefs. While I was upset that Adam had to defend himself to my family, the way he handled Olivia's nasty remarks only strengthened my certainty that he was the perfect guy for me. After Adam stood up for himself, nobody was thinking too highly of Olivia. People didn't appreciate how she tried to call out my boyfriend in front of everyone. For the rest of the evening, Olivia sat by herself, looking angry and sipping on her drink. Especially after we all went back to college, I was so fed up with her behavior that I sent her a lengthy text expressing my embarrassment to call her my sister and hoping she would stay out of my life. I didn't even want people to know we were related. She responded with a short text that simply said, "Same here. Since that big argument, I haven't spoken to Olivia at all. Adam and I successfully completed college and now both hold excellent jobs. 3 years ago, we decided to tie the knot. I invited my parents to the wedding but made it clear that Olivia wasn't welcome. Despite my mom's attempts to change my mind, I wanted our wedding to be truly special and extravagant. My parents were quite shocked by how amazing everything looked. My mom was blown away, and my dad, who typically doesn't say much, remained silent throughout the ceremony. Our guests, including friends and Adam's family, got to meet my parents. It didn't take long for everyone to notice the stark contrast in wealth between Adam's family and mine. After the wedding, my parents approached me, expressing surprise at the amount spent on the event and the wealth of Adam's family. My mom was curious about how we could afford such an extravagant wedding, and I assured her that Adam and I were doing well for ourselves. I wanted them to understand that our decision to get married wasn't solely based on financial considerations. Looking back, I realized it might have been a mistake to disclose so much about our financial situation to my parents. 2 years ago, my parents unexpectedly reached out for help. They explained that my dad had retired and they had depleted their savings on home renovations. They asked if I could lend them a hand with money, a surprising request considering their usual behavior. Despite feeling like I didn't quite fit in with my family, it felt somewhat comforting to be the one they turned to. They requested $3,000 every month, which would cover their bills and increasing medical costs as they aged. At that time, I was doing well at work, and Adam and I were in a good financial position. Without much hesitation, I agreed, considering it my duty to assist my parents in their time of need. When Adam learned about the substantial monthly contribution, he was taken aback. He pointed out that $3,000 was a significant amount for them to request. Despite the financial strain, Adam and I were determined to help my parents, making the monthly transfers a routine. I never delved into the specifics of how they were using the funds. During this period, I started feeling like there was an improvement in my relationship with my parents, although I wasn't certain whether their niceness was genuine or just a reaction to the financial support they were receiving. It seemed like we were genuinely connecting. I entertained the idea of letting go of our challenging past and beginning anew, hoping for a happier future together. However, 2 weeks ago, my phone exploded with calls from them right in the middle of an incredibly busy workday. Aware of my packed schedule, the numerous missed calls raised concerns, making me rush to call them back. My dad was on the other end, requesting me to visit their place urgently for an important conversation. Despite feeling worn out after a long day at work, I agreed, curious about the nature of their request. That evening, I showed up at their doorstep, feeling a mix of fatigue and curiosity. They both appeared nervous, escalating my worry. When I inquired about their well-being, they began the conversation by expressing gratitude for the financial support I had been providing. Bewildered, I sat there as my mom disclosed some unexpected news. She revealed that my sister Olivia, whom I didn't even know was married, was attempting to start a family. Olivia had been struggling with infertility for a considerable period, and her journey had been challenging. After facing a miscarriage, Olivia was now exploring IVF, a costly medical procedure. They needed $25,000 to cover the expenses, and then they looked at me, expecting something. They conveyed that being Olivia's sister, it was my responsibility to contribute and support her. They emphasized the idea of family standing together in times of need. Listening to their request, I was completely taken aback. The notion that I should provide such a substantial amount for Olivia, especially considering our turbulent relationship, was mind-boggling. I reminded them of the strained dynamic between Olivia and me, emphasizing the difficulties she had caused during our upbringing. The idea of contributing such a significant sum just didn't make sense to me. My parents didn't appreciate my response. They argued that as Olivia's sister, it was somehow my duty to help her conceive a child. They even suggested that since I didn't have children of my own, the least I could do was assist in bringing a grandchild into the family to foster reconciliation. I expressed my sympathy for Olivia's struggles but made it clear that I wouldn't simply hand over money as a gift. I offered to lend her the $25,000 but insisted on a legal contract outlining the terms of repayment. This suggestion angered my parents, who yelled at me, deeming it rude to consider making Olivia sign a contract when I had ample money at my disposal. According to my mom, I was being selfish and Olivia needed the money more than I did. Frustrated by their accusations, I asserted that I had worked hard for my money, had my own life and bills to attend to, and couldn't give away a substantial portion of my savings to someone who had mistreated me and with whom I hadn't communicated in ages. I made it clear that if they weren't okay with my conditions, they shouldn't expect further financial support from me. After my firm statement, my parents began yelling, claiming that my attitude was precisely why they had an issue with me, accusing me of always acting too proud and believing I was better than everyone else. Their sudden change in demeanor shocked me, considering their earlier pleas for money. Despite their attempt to make me feel guilty, I remained steadfast in my decision. However, suspicion crept in, prompting me to investigate the money I had been sending them. I excused myself to go to the bathroom, but instead I quickly went to my parents' bedroom and found my dad's phone charging on the nightstand. Unable to ignore the bad feeling in my gut, I decided to look at his phone. What I discovered left me utterly shocked. Messages revealing that my dad had been sending $1,800 every month to my sister for the past 2 years. It felt like a massive betrayal, and the real issue was not just about the money, it was the fact that they had deceived and manipulated my feelings for 2 whole years. Overwhelmed by the revelation, I went back to confront my parents, not bothering to hide the hurt caused by their betrayal. I asked them directly what they had been doing with the $3,000 I sent them every month. Caught off guard, they stumbled over their words, attempting to figure out what to say. Unable to wait for an explanation, I confronted them about sending $1,800 every month to my sister. Their faces went pale, and after a few seconds of silence, they admitted to diverting a significant portion of the money I sent to Olivia. Their excuse was that she genuinely needed the money, and as her parents, they couldn't bear to see her struggle. Hearing this excuse infuriated me, and I questioned them about their disregard for my well-being. Asked them if they didn't think it was wrong to lie and take my money for 2 years. Their defense was based on Olivia's financial struggles, emphasizing that my sister and her husband didn't earn much. They tried to justify their actions by claiming that, given my lavish wedding and well-paying job, they believed taking money from me wouldn't significantly impact me. They even mentioned that it was initially Olivia's idea, but they went along with it, thinking they were doing the best for their kids. However, this only intensified my feelings of anger and disappointment. At that point, I had reached my limit. I declared that I wouldn't provide them with any more financial support and that I was done backing them financially. My parents responded with desperation and anger, insisting that I couldn't just stop helping the family when they needed me. I laughed off their pleas and left their house, experiencing a mix of emotions, including anger, sadness, and a sense of relief. Now, as I write this, my parents persistently call and beg me to reconsider, assuring me they won't take any more money if I don't completely cut them off. However, I remain resolute, still trying to process my parents' shocking behavior and wondering if our relationship can ever recover from this betrayal. Their attempts to guilt-trip me failed. I stand firm in my decision. Update 1. I am incredibly grateful for the supportive messages I've received. The guilt from my family has weighed on me, but having someone as amazing as Adam in my life means a lot. I appreciate that people are finally listening to my childhood stories and believing them. Discussing this has been challenging, with some thinking I'm exaggerating, so thank you to everyone I've talked to. Adam is equally upset about my parents deceiving me, and we decided not to let this happen again, regardless of their current circumstances. Meanwhile, my parents continued to call and text, apologizing, attempting to make me feel guilty and begging me to change my mind. However, I remained steadfast in my decision to cut off contact with them. Update 2. It's been about 2 weeks since my last update and something unexpected happened. Out of the blue, Olivia, my stepsister, messaged me. I was surprised because I didn't even know she had my number. Instead of apologizing, she sent me a mean and lengthy text, calling me selfish and childish, and expressing her long-standing dislike for me. She even went so far as to label me a gold digger, making baseless accusations. Olivia claimed that I only married Adam for his money and insisted that I should share my wealth with our family because, well, we're family. She expressed regret for not being meaner to me during our childhood, hoping that it would have left a lasting impression on me. Reading her hurtful words brought back all the negative memories from my past, and I couldn't help but cry. When I showed Adam the message, he became furious and decided to take matters into his own hands. Adam initiated a group chat on Messenger with my parents, Olivia, and several relatives and cousins. He shared screenshots of Olivia's message and exposed the lies my parents and Olivia had been telling me for the past 2 years, including the bullying I endured during our childhood. The revelation sparked an intense response from our relatives, who were shocked by my current actions and appalled by Olivia's deceitfulness. In subsequent calls with family members, I disclosed more details about how my parents were diverting $1,800 every month to Olivia from the funds I believed were intended for them. The pressure from our relatives embarrassed my parents, who reached out, pleading with me to delete the group chat and pretend it never happened. However, Adam stood firm, refusing to let them off the hook. He warned them that any attempt to ask us for money again would result in legal action, hiring the best lawyers to take them to court. This threat scared them, and they refrained from contacting me. Other family members informed me that my parents were deeply ashamed, especially after addressing Olivia's actions. Despite their apology and newfound awareness, I decided to keep them out of my life, focusing on happiness with Adam, away from the drama. Update 3. I want to express my gratitude for the incredible support you've all provided. The overwhelming encouragement has been amazing, prompting Adam and me to consider seeking therapy to navigate the challenging emotions surrounding my decision to cut ties with my parents and the betrayal by my family. The silence from my parents and Olivia following Adam's stern warning assures me that they are too scared to reach out. Moving forward, I aim to prioritize self-care and concentrate on the positive aspects of my life, particularly my time with Adam. While challenges may arise, I remain hopeful that with the right support, things will improve. I hope this will be the